The rain hammered the roof of my beat-up Honda like it was trying to drown out the scream building in my chest. I'd driven through the storm from downtown Seattle, the wipers slashing back and forth in frantic rhythm to the pulse of my confession. Words I'd rehearsed 100 times for Emily, the only soul who might not shatter when I finally admitted I was gay. But as I dashed up the slick steps of her family's craftsman bungalow in Ballard, clutching a soggy six-pack of her favorite IPAs like a peace offering, the door creaked open before I could knock, revealing not her familiar grin, but the steady, storm-gray eyes of her father, Jack Harlan, who looked at me like he'd been expecting me all along. "Alex," he said, his voice low and rough around the edges, like gravel under tires after a long haul. Water streamed down my face, mixing with the tears I hadn't let fall yet, and he stepped aside without another word, his broad frame filling the doorway like an anchor in the chaos. I stumbled in, dripping onto the welcome mat, and the warmth of the foyer hit me like a hug I didn't deserve, faint scent of pipe tobacco and old books wrapping around the chill, clinging to my skin. Jack closed the door with a soft click that echoed louder than thunder. He was in his mid-40s, I guessed, though time had carved him more like a river smooth stone than a storm breaks it, strong jaw shadowed with evening stubble. Hair that was more silver than brown now, falling just tousled enough to suggest he didn't fuss over it. He wore a faded flannel shirt over jeans that hugged his legs in a way that spoke of quiet confidence, the kind earned from years teaching history to restless teens at Roosevelt High. Emily always joked he was the dad version of Indiana Jones, but up close, in the dim lamplight of the entryway, he was something far more dangerous, real, and radiating a calm that made my rehearsed lines evaporate. "Emily's out," he said, turning to face me fully, his eyes flicking over my soaked clothes with a concern that felt too personal. "Soccer practice ran late. Coach is on a tear about playoffs. Said she'd text you." He paused, and in that beat, the air thickened, charged like the sky outside. I nodded, mumbling something about the beer, but my hand shook as I set it down on the hall table, the bottles clinking like accusations. He didn't press, just gestured toward the living room with a tilt of his head. "Come on, kid. Dry off before you flood the place, kid." The word stung, a reminder of the gulf between us, me at 23, fumbling through freelance gigs and late-night bars where secrets felt safer than home. Him, the steady rock Emily leaned on after her mom bailed a decade ago. I followed him, peeling off my jacket, hyper-aware of the space he took up, the way his shoulders shifted under the flannel like they carried more than just the weight of single-parenthood. The living room was a time capsule of Harlan family life. Worn leather couch facing a brick fireplace, shelves groaning with dog-eared paperbacks and faded photos, Emily gap-toothed at 8, Jack in a cap and gown from his own college days, looking impossibly young and unbroken. He tossed me a towel from the armchair, and I caught it midair, our fingers brushing for a split second that sent a jolt straight to my gut. "Sit," he said. Not a command, but an invitation, sinking into the opposite end of the couch himself. The fire wasn't lit, but the room held a residual warmth, like it remembered better evenings. I dabbed my face, the terry cloth rough against my skin, and blurted it out before the silence could swallow me whole. "Mr. Harlan, Jack, I need to talk to Emily about something big. Like, life-changing." My voice cracked on the last word, and I hated it. Hated how small it made me sound. But his gaze didn't waver, if anything, it softened, pulling me in deeper. Call me Jack. And whatever it is, you look like it's been chewing you up for miles. He leaned forward, elbows on knees, the sleeves of his shirt riding up to reveal forearms corded with veins from years of hauling lumber for DIY projects around the house. There was no judgment in his posture, just a quiet readiness that made my throat tighten. Outside, lightning cracked, illuminating his profile in stark relief, strong nose. Faint lines etching laugh or worry. I couldn't tell which. I swallowed hard, the words tumbling out in a rush. I'm gay. Jack. Have been my whole life. I think, but saying it, it's like ripping off a bandage that's fused to your skin. Emily's the only one who gets me. You know, the one who'd fight the world for me. The admission hung there, raw and exposed. And for a heartbeat, I braced for the recoil, the awkward pat on the back. The "it's okay" son that always felt like pity. But Jack didn't flinch. He held my eyes, his own darkening with something I couldn't name. Empathy, maybe, or the shadow of his own buried truths. Alex, he said softly, the world's got enough fights already. You don't have to wage this one alone. He reached out then, not to pat my shoulder, but to squeeze it, his hand warm and firm through the damp fabric of my shirt. The touch lingered a second too long, sending heat spiraling through me. And when he pulled back, the air between us hummed with unspoken electricity. Emily burst through the back door 20 minutes later, mud-caked cleats thudding against the kitchen tile, her ponytail a wild tangle of blonde. Alex, dude, you look like a drowned rat. Wait, is that my IPA? She laughed, the sound bright and unburdened, and launched herself at me for a hug that smeared grass stains on my sleeve. Jack watched from the armchair, a faint smile playing at his lips. But his eyes, they stayed on me, a quiet intensity that made my pulse stutter even as relief flooded in. We talked late into the night, the three of us sprawled on the couch with pizza boxes and half-empty bottles. Emily's energy a whirlwind that pulled confessions from me like threads from a seam. She cried when I told her, happy tears. She swore, hugging me fierce until her dad cleared his throat and suggested we not drown the neighbors in our drama. But as she yawned and headed upstairs, promising brunch tomorrow to plot your epic coming-out parade, Jack walked me to the door, the rain now a gentle patter against the eaves. You did good tonight. Alex, he murmured, handed me my jacket, his fingers grazing mine again, deliberate this time. Or was I imagining it? Takes guts to lay it bare like that. His voice was a low rumble, close enough that I caught the faint spice of his aftershave. And for a wild moment, I wondered what it would be like to lean in, to bridge that impossible gap. Thanks, Jack, I whispered, stepping into the night, my skin buzzing where he'd touched. As I slid into my car, the engine coughing to life, I glanced back at the porch light haloing his silhouette. Emily's dad, my best friend's father, the man who'd just become the axis my world tilted on. The next morning dawned gray and drizzly, Seattle's eternal apology for summer's tease. Emily texted me at 8 a.m. Sharp, coffee run? Dad's making pancakes. Don't bail. I stared at the screen, thumb hovering. The memory of Jack's hand on my shoulder burning hotter than the embarrassment of my soaked confession. What the hell was that pull? Guilt twisted in my gut. He was off limits. A line thicker than blood, but curiosity, that sly bastard, whispered louder. I showed up at 9, hair still sleep mussed, in yesterday's jeans because laundry was for adults with their shit together. The house smelled like maple syrup and coffee. Sounds of clattering plates drifting from the kitchen. Emily waved me in from the table, mouth full of blueberry fluff. "You're late. Dad's on a roll. Says it's his post-confession victory breakfast." Jack turned from the stove, spatula in hand, a streak of flour dusting his cheek like war paint. "Morning, Alex. Sleep okay after the deluge?" His smile was easy, but his eyes held that same depth, like he was reading the subtext I hadn't voiced. He slid a stack onto my plate, golden edges, steam rising, and I mumbled a thanks, sliding into the seat across from Emily, hyper-aware of his movements, the flex of his biceps as he poured coffee, the way his shirt clung just a bit from the kitchen humidity. We ate like a family that wasn't mine. Emily chattering about her team's latest drama, a star forward with a secret crush on the goalie, while Jack interjected with dry wit that had us both snorting milk. "Sounds like my sophomore history class," he said, winking at me over his mug. Half the battles are fought in whispers. The wink landed like a spark, and I choked on a bite, Emily thumping my back with exaggerated concern. After, she dragged me to her room for debriefing, posters of indie bands peeling at the edges, fairy lights strung like forgotten promises. "I'm so proud of you, Alex," she said, flopping onto her bed, pulling me down beside her. "Like, you're my hero. And hey, if anyone gives you shit, I'll key their car." Her fierceness was a balm. But as we scrolled through memes mocking coming-out tropes, my mind wandered downstairs to the man flipping channels in the living room, his laughter filtering up like an invitation. By afternoon, the rain cleared to a hesitant sun, and Emily announced a park run. "Come on, Dad, shake off the grading papers for once." Jack grumbled good-naturedly but grabbed his keys, and we piled into his old Ford truck, the cab smelling of leather and faint motor oil. Emily claimed shotgun, leaving me in the back with a view of Jack's neck, the way his collar rode up to reveal a tattoo peeking out, a compass rose, inked in faded black, whispering of roads not taken. Golden Gardens Park was alive with dog walkers and frisbee tossers, the sound glittering like shattered glass under the clouds. Emily sprinted ahead to the water's edge, yelling about skipping stones, while Jack and I lagged, boots crunching gravel. "She's got your fire," he said, nodding after her. "Always has. Reminds me of her mom. Back when life was simpler." I glanced at him, emboldened by the salt air. "You don't talk about her much." It was bold, prying into the scar tissue of his divorce. But he didn't shut down. "Water under the bridge," he replied, but his jaw tightened. "Left when Emily was 9. Said I was too predictable. Too safe." He kicked a pebble, watching it skitter toward the waves. "Guess she wanted adventure. I just wanted steady." The vulnerability cracked something in me. "Steady's not boring, Jack. It's everything." Our eyes met, and there was again that pull, magnetic and terrifying, drawing me closer than friends, fathers should ever get. He held my gaze, the wind tousling his hair, and for a heartbeat, the world narrowed to the space between us, charged with what-ifs. Emily's shout broke it. "Losers, get over here," and we laughed it off, jogging to join her. But as we hurled rocks into the Puget Sound, splashes echoing our buried ripples, I felt his shoulder brush mine, accidental or not, and the spark ignited into something I couldn't ignore. That evening, Emily had a study group, leaving the house echoing with her absence. I meant to head home, but Jack called as I hit the highway. Forgot your scarf. Emily's orders to return it. Lie or not? I turned around, heart thudding like bass at a dive bar. He met me at the door in sweatpants and a thermal that hugged his chest. The casualness disarming. Come in for a beer? Least I can do after you put up with her chaos. We ended up in the garage. His man cave, workbench cluttered with model ships half-built. A mini fridge humming softly. He cracked open bottles, the foam spilling like confessions. And we talked, really talked, for the first time without Emily's buffer. About my writing, the short stories piling up unpublished because fear tasted sharper than ink. About his teaching, the kids who reminded him why he stayed when easier paths called. The beer loosened tongues, and somehow, we circled to my revelation. Coming out, he said, swirling his bottle. It's not the end of the fight. It's the start. You face mirrors before monsters. I nodded, throat tight. What about you? Ever? Face your own. The question slipped out. Wine loose. And his laugh was bittersweet. Once or twice. Life's full of detours you don't map. He set his beer down, eyes locking on mine, and the garage light cast shadows that made him look eternal, unbreakable yet aching. Alex, you're not what I expected either. The air stilled, and then he was closer, his hand on my arm, testing. Tentative. I didn't pull away. Instead, I leaned in, our breaths mingling, and when his lips met mine, it was like the storm breaking, fierce, inevitable, tasting of hops and hidden years. His kiss was sure, hands framing my face with a gentleness that belied the fire building between us. We broke apart gasping, foreheads pressed, the world outside forgotten. Jack, I whispered, guilt and want warring in my chest. Shoo, he murmured, thumb tracing my jaw. Just tonight. Let be enough. But as I drove home under streetlights, blurring into halos, I knew enough was a lie. This was the beginning of everything unraveling and stitching anew. Weeks blurred into a secret rhythm, stolen moments woven into the fabric of normalcy. Emily's soccer games became my alibi, cheering from the bleachers while stealing glances at Jack in the stands. His not a code only we deciphered. Dinners at their table, where his foot would brush mine under the oak, sending shivers I masked with bad jokes. Nights when Emily crashed early from practice, and I'd linger in the kitchen, helping with dishes while his hands found my waist from behind. Whispers hot against my ear. Missed you today. It was intoxicating. This forbidden dance, his experience a counterpoint to my eager uncertainty. Bodies mapping each other in the dim glow of his bedroom when Emily slept down the hall. Jack was patient, reverent even, tracing scars I didn't know I had with lips and fingers that spoke of longing long denied. You're beautiful, he'd say, voice gravel rough, as if saying it made it true. And in those hushed hours, tangled in sheets that smelled of him, I believed it. But cracks formed, subtle as Seattle fog. Emily noticed my distractions first. You okay? Alex, you've been spacey, like major hard eyes over someone. We'd be at our favorite cafe in Fremont. Steam rising from lattes. Her green eyes probing like she could x-ray my soul. I'd deflect with laughs, blaming deadlines, but guilt gnawed deeper each time. A thief stealing from the one person who'd never betrayed me. Jack felt it too. One crisp October evening, after a parent-teacher night that left him drained, we met at his truck in the school lot, neutral ground, away from prying eyes. He pulled me into the cab, kissing me hard against the door, but when we parted, his face was storm-lined. This. Us. It's not fair to her. To you. His hand cupped my cheek, thumb stroking like he could erase the worry. I know, I admitted, voice breaking. But walking away, God. Jack. It hurts more than hiding. Rain pattered the roof again, mirroring the downpour inside me. He held me then. No words, just the steady thrum of his heart against mine. A promise or a prison? I couldn't tell. The unraveling hit like a rogue wave at Discovery Park, where we'd sneak away for hikes that ended in hidden coves. Lips bruised and clothes askew. Emily invited me along one weekend, her, me, and a few teammates for a bonfire. Jack begged off with grating, but as dusk fell and flames crackled, casting golden flickers on driftwood, she cornered me by the cooler. Spill it. Alex. You've been weird since the rain night. Is a guy? Come on. I'm your bestie. Details. Her excitement was pure, untainted, and it twisted the knife. I wanted to tell her everything, to share the joy of Jack's laugh. The way he recited Whitman in bed like poetry was foreplay. But the words stuck, poisoned by betrayal. It's complicated, I hedged, poking the fire with a stick until sparks flew like accusations. She pouted, but let it drop when her phone buzzed, a text from Jack. Home safe? She grinned, typing back, oblivious to the man who'd sent it from his study, probably staring at the same screen, heart in his throat. That night, alone in my cramped apartment overlooking the ship canal, doubt crashed in. Were we building on sand? Emily's trust, Jack's stability, my fragile new freedom, all teetering. I texted him, we need to talk. For real. His reply came swift, tomorrow. My place. Emily's at a tournament. Morning brought resolve, laced with dread. I arrived early. The house quiet save for the tick of the grandfather clock in the hall, a relic from Jack's dad. Emily said, symbol of time's inexorable march. He met me in the kitchen, coffee brewing, his eyes shadowed from a sleepless night. Alex, he started, but I cut him off, words spilling like the pot's overflow. This can't keep going. Not like this. Emily, she deserves better than lies from both of us. Tears burned, hot and unbidden, and he crossed the room in 2 strides, pulling me against him. His embrace was iron and anchor, scent of soap and sorrow enveloping me. You're right, he whispered into my hair. I've been selfish. Hiding behind just tonight when it's been every damn dawn since. We stood there, swaying like a slow dance, until the front door slammed. Emily, home early, backpack thudding to the floor. Dad? Alex? Her voice echoed, footsteps approaching, and panic surged. Jack released me, stepping back, casual as if we'd been discussing weather. She rounded the corner, cheeks flushed from the drive, eyes lighting up at the sight of us. Double feature. What's up? We fumbled through small talk, pancakes again, her recounting the game, but the air crackled with undercurrents she couldn't sense. As she scarfed her stack, chattering about a missed penalty, Jack's foot found mine under the table. A silent vow. We'd in it clean, for her sake. But endings, like storms, rarely obey. The fracture came swift and brutal. 2 weeks later, at a Harlan family tradition, Thanksgiving prep at the Pike Place Market, where Emily and I trailed Jack through stalls of crab and cider, arms laden with bags. Laughter flowed easy, her teasing him about his dad dancing to buskers, me stealing bites of apple from his purchase, but beneath it, our goodbye loomed, scheduled for that night after she crashed from pie overdose. Fate, cruel jester, intervened at the fishmonger's. A toss of salmon went wide, slick sides slapping pavement, and in the chaos of applause, Jack steadied me with a hand at my elbow, innocent, brotherly. But Emily saw, or thought she did, the linger, the look exchanged in the crowd's cover. Her face shifted, joy flickering to confusion, then hurt. Back home, as turkey roasted and jazz crooned from the radio, she pulled me aside in the pantry. Alex, what's going on with you and Dad? Don't bullshit me. Her voice trembled. Eyes, so like his, searching mine for truth I'd hoarded. My heart plummeted. Ing. It's not, but the lie died on my tongue. She deserved the woman who'd raised her voice against my bullies in high school, not the shadow. I love him, I confessed. The words a damn breaking. It started that night in the rain, and I couldn't stop. God, I'm so sorry. Tears welled in her eyes. Not anger, but a profound ache. My dad, Alex, he's everything to me. And you're my brother. She hugged herself, the shelf of spices rattling behind her. How long? Months, I admitted, shame flooding. We were going to end it. Tonight, she nodded, numb, and slipped out without another word. Dinner was a ghost feast, polite bites, forced smiles, Jack's confusion mounting as Emily picked at her plate, excusing herself early to her room. Upstairs, the door clicked shut like finality. Jack found me washing dishes later, sleeves rolled, suds hiding my shaking hands. What happened? He asked, voice low, dread etching his face. She knows. The sponge slipped, clattering into the sink. He cursed softly, raking fingers through his hair, and for the first time, I saw him fracture, the steady man crumbling under the weight of his choices. We climbed the stairs together, a united front laced with doom, and knocked on her door. Emily opened it, red-eyed but resolute, waving us in. The room was a sanctuary of posters and pillows, now a courtroom. Sit, she said, perching on her desk chair like a judge. Words tumbled, apologies from us, questions from her, raw as peeled onions. Why him? She asked me, voice cracking. Out of everyone, because he's kind, I said, reaching for Jack's hand across the bedspread. He squeezed, lifeline in the storm, and strong. And he sees me, Eminesia. All of me. She looked at her father then, the man who'd bandaged knees and buried heartbreaks. Dad, is this real or just? Rebound from Mom. Jack's throat worked, eyes glistening. It's real, kiddo. Alex woke something in me I thought was long dead. But if it costs you, his voice broke, and she was across the room, wrapping him in a hug that mended what words couldn't. It doesn't, she whispered. Not if it's honest now. She pulled back, swiping tears, and fixed us with a watery glare. But if you hurt him, Alex, I'll bury you in the backyard. And Dad, if you break his heart, same deal. Laughter bubbled, fragile but true. And in that moment, the Harlan home breathed again, not perfect, but whole. Winter settled over Seattle like a down quilt, softening edges with frost-kissed evergreens and the hush of first snows. Emily's acceptance wasn't seamless, awkward silences at breakfast, her ribbing us with gross "get a room" when our hands brushed, but it deepened us, forging a family from fragments. She even set ground rules: no PDA in the living room, and mandatory triple dates to keep things weirdly normal. Jack and I navigated the new terrain with tentative joy. Mornings tangled in his bed, sunlight slanting through blinds to paint his skin gold, evenings walking the locks. Fingers laced as boats chugged past, their wakes rippling like our shared pulse. He read my stories aloud, voice rumbling approval over claret and takeout, pushing me to submit that novel gathering dust. "You've got lightning in your veins, Alex," he'd say, kissing my temple. "Let it strike. But love's not a straight path. Curves hid pitfalls." Jack's colleagues whispered at faculty lounges, eyes narrowing over lesson plans when I picked him up in my Honda, that young writer friend morphing into speculation. One parent cornered Emily at a game, "Your dad's lifestyle change. Is it safe for the team?" She shut it down fierce. "My dad's a rock lady. Worry about your kid's footwork," but the barbs lingered, etching doubt. My own demons surfaced in quieter ways. Freelance dried up, rejections piling like unpaid bills, and insecurity whispered, "What do I offer this man who's built empires from chalk dust?" One night, after a slammed door from a particularly brutal email, I lashed out at the dinner table, snapping at Jack's gentle probe, accusing him of pity, of settling for the broken kid at his door. He didn't yell back, just stood, pulled me into the yard under stars pricking the ink-black sky, and held me until sobs subsided. "You're not broken, Alex. You're the map I didn't know I needed." His kiss was salt-tinged, fierce with forgiveness, and we made love on the porch swing later, bundled in blankets, the world a distant hum. Spring thawed the chill, blooming cherry blossoms along the waterfront like confetti for second chances. Emily graduated that June, cap and gown swirling in the auditorium's roar, and we celebrated with a backyard bash, lanterns swaying as neighbors grilled and laughed. Jack proposed a toast to family, not the ones we're born to, but the ones we choose. His eyes found mine over the rim, promise gleaming, and Emily hooped, clinking bottles with a grin that said she'd scripted it. That fall, as leaves turned fire orange, Jack knelt in the living room, same couch where it began, ring simple silver, engraved with a compass rose to match his ink. "Marry me, Alex. Let's write the rest of this story together." Tears blurred him, but I nodded. Yes, a whisper swallowed by his arms. Emily walked me down the aisle 6 months later, in a ceremony small and sweet at Gasworks Park, kites dancing overhead like blessings. Vows exchanged with the city sprawl as witness. Jack's "I do" a vow renewed. We danced under strings of lights to an old jazz standard, Emily cutting in with a twirl that left us breathless. Years folded like pages, a joint adoption of a scrappy mutt named Harlan, my novel hitting shelves. Dedication reading for the man who opened the door. Jack retiring to consult, his hand in mine at book signings. Emily's wedding where she teared up reciting her toast, "To the rain that brought you home," in quiet moments. As gray threaded our hair equally now, we'd sit on that porch, watching storms roll in over the sound. Still think it was a mistake? I'd tease, head on his shoulder. Never, he'd murmur, kissing my temple. You were the best surprise on my door. And in the end, that's what love is.
I'm so glad you came.
Not the thunder.
Don't just
The
stand there.
steady
Come
rain
in.
after. Washing
almost
clean
didn't.
what was always meant to be.